All right. Has the remote died? I think it has. But I have a text system ready.
Does that have things broken? I mean,
It's I think there's just a lot of different things going on. Some of it's the sign of culture. Some of it is economic reality. Some is who's coming into the area. It's just a combination of lots of different factors. So this one, this one's kind of complicated to figure out exactly every last detail that's going on.
Well, and you're talking about a quarter of households if someone's living alone, and then you talked about how there's a whole bunch of people between the ages of 25 and 34 that are leaving the area. I mean, I'm thinking of people that are members in my organization that are single, having a hard time finding somebody. So that even addresses some of that. They're living alone because the population to meet somebody is harder at the moment, even in the area.
Yeah, and we know people are waiting longer to get married too. That's a national trend. All right, I have my tech assistants that's going to help me move forward. All right, thank you. Catawba County, and again, it follows some similar patterns. Husband, wife under 18 has dropped. You see male and female householder has gone up, and living alone has gone up 16%. So within the region, all four counties seem to be following a fairly similar trend. Okay. Housing data. All right, so we talked about people, now we're going to talk about houses. 1970. How many of you were around in 1970? Okay. I was not, I have not been born yet. 73,000 homes in 1970. So let's look at the progression. 1970, 73,000, 1980, 103,000. So the region built 30,000 homes. That's a lot. 1980 to 1990, 18,000 homes were built. 1990 to 2000, 23,000. In pretty good pace. 2000 to 2010, 144 to 162, 18,000. So if our population hasn't grown as much, we still build 18,000 homes. What's going on there?
smaller households.
Smaller households. This one I'm not going to give the answer because we're going to look at it.
It was the beginning of the decade.
Beginning of the decade.
First half of the
Is
decade.
this all units?
It would be multifamily.
Oh, yeah.
It would be single family, and it would be mobile homes as well. That's how they ask that question. They'll ask a question that says, what type of house do you live in? They're going to ask, do you own or do you rent it? And they're going to ask, are you in single family, or are you in a multifamily unit, or are you in mobile home, or are you in something else? That's how they ask it.
Well, national financial policy is pumping the building of unnecessary homes. National financial policy is pumping the building of unnecessary homes.
All right. I've heard lots of different answers, so let's see what the data shows. Okay. First, we'll look at Catawba County. 30,000, 70, 40,000, 80, 1990, 49,000, 2000, 59,000. So it's been about 10,000 a decade. And then you look 2000 to 2010, about 7,800, so a little bit less. Why has it dropped off a little bit? We'll talk about that in a minute. This is occupied versus vacant units. And this is part of the answer. We had this growth here of 17,000 housing units. Pretty fast. If you looked at it in the other decades, occupied, vacant. So occupied's gone up 20, this is the 90s. Occupied went up 21, vacant went up 18. You look at 2010, occupied went up 10, vacant went up 7201. So one thing that's happened is we have a lot more vacant units than we had 10 years ago. Again, that would follow a national trend with the housing bubble, job losses. But right now in our area, 1 out of 11 housing units are vacant. 1 out of 9 are vacant. That means you've got a huge inventory, a huge stock of units out there. Of course, it's all a matter of where are those units. Other areas you might have some demand because you've had that population growth in the future. Other areas you may have a lot of homes sitting there for a very long time. So again, this is kind of a regional look. It doesn't necessarily say within the region, but we have a lot of vacant units. But a lot of other areas in the country do too. It's not just us. This is a 66% increase in the number of vacant units in the past 10 years. So that's a lot. I think I got the clicker to work that time. All right, Catawba County. Again, look at the 90s. Occupied, 9,800. Increase, vacant, only 894. You had all that job growth going on. You had a lot of demand for houses, and they were getting filled. 2000, 2010, 5,300 to 2,600. So a 60% increase in the number of vacant units. 10% of all units are vacant. Catawba's situation is a little bit better than the others. The others would actually have a higher percentage of vacant units, but 10% is still a lot. So it's going to take a while to absorb some of those vacant units before you would see a lot of housing construction going on within the region as a whole.
So can you tell us again, can you define that? Does that include apartments?
Yes, this would include single family, your site-built homes, and it would include multifamily homes. So the question you're probably thinking is, how much of this is rental multifamily units versus single-family site-built homes?
Yeah, somebody that's moved out of their house into an apartment is what I'm thinking.
Right, or was it somebody that they were in their apartment in 2000 and they left, or were they rental units that were built between 2000 and 2010 and some of those units aren't occupied? So we're actually going to get into that a little bit.
I think you need to take into consideration your aging population and where they're downsizing from a single family residence to a lower maintenance home or townhome apartment. I think that's probably your biggest trend that we've noticed.
Yeah, and the number of people coming in who are not baby boomers but are coming in behind them, that's a lower population. And so you're going to have this flood of houses anyway with fewer people buying.
Right. Look, so you have a bigger market of overall units,
Right
but
now.
your supply of buyers is lower, particularly if it's larger units like you're talking about.
But it's a misapplication of regional capital in any place.
Yeah, and you can see other areas, they follow some similar trends. And I've tried to actually look at that to see, are other metros like us, do they have the same profile? We'll talk a little bit about that. I need the assistant again. All right. Here's building permits, and I was trying to get a sense of when did this construction occur. You know, we've actually been falling since 2000, but this is where, if you want to say we hit the cliff. The cliff was between 07 and 08. So we went from 1750, 1420 down to 820, and then we went from 820 down to 381. 2010, we only had 381. I went back and I looked at the records to see when was the last time we had a number of this low. They started keeping metro area records in around 1982. The lowest number I could find was 1982. That would be the second lowest since 1982. If we had a 2011 bar here, based on what I've seen so far this year, we're going to be right at this number again, or maybe a little bit less. Very slow. And of course, this is impacting jobs. Think about all those construction jobs. If you're only building 300 to 400 units per year versus 1750, you're not going to need as many construction workers. All right, let's look at Catawba counties. All right. 995 in 2000 was the peak. Look at 2010, 152. Wow. I mean, that's an 85% reduction. If you took out the 2010 bar, we're gonna end up right around this number. I'm hoping it'll be a little bit higher, but it's gonna be right around that number. Again, that's clearly related to jobs, housing bubble, supply, demand. All those factors tying it together.
Senator, do you have those broken down by sub-region in the county, municipality or specific areas of the county?
We have it broken down by census tract within the county. I don't have that in the presentation today. If you looked at it for that 10 years, that Cheryl's Ford area would have the most in the county. So it's like census tract 115 something.
Mm-hmm.
That one has a lot of them. 2000, 2007. Of course, the last 3 years it's dropped off everywhere. You might see, if you look at, you divide the area up into 10 areas, they're all going to get about 10 to 15 is it. It's very, very slow. But yeah, I've got that information so I can share that with you. Okay, vacant units by type. All right, this goes to the question, what are these vacant units? Are they rentals? Are they site-built homes? The Census Bureau asks a question, and they try to determine this. Is it, and when they go out in the field, because they don't get a response, so they're trying to figure out, is this a rental unit? Is this a site-built that's for sale? Is it just for recreational use? A lot of vacant homes are for recreational use. They're using them during the summer. It's a house by the lake, but they don't live there. They use it a few weeks during the summer. During the winter, it's idle, so it would be counted as a vacant unit, but it's for this seasonal or recreational use. And that's about 20% of all vacants. The biggest chunk is actually this other vacant. And you're like, what is other vacant? Other vacant means they couldn't figure out whether it was a rental or a site built. They don't feel it's a house that's used for seasonal use. I would claim some of this is abandoned homes, or they're homes that are foreclosed and nobody's living in them, so they couldn't figure out who it is. Rental, 30% of vacants they could determine were rentals. So it looks like a lot of those vacants are rental units. To me, that kind of makes sense, because if you look at our area and you look at who has been able to leave and search for work elsewhere, if you're renting your home versus owning your home, it's easier to leave if you're renting a home than if you're trying to sell your home. And I think that's part of it. The other part here is that we did have some multifamily construction between 2000 and 2010. So the universe of rental units has gone up. So you're going to have a larger percentage of vacant units because of that. This is like the for sale only. That would be your site builds that are for sale that they were able to determine, 2415. And then you'll see there's a few that they're rented or sold, but they haven't moved in, because it's a snapshot of April 1st. So you'll see a little bit in that. So it's kind of all over the board why a unit is vacant. Let's look at Catawba counties here. And it's similar, but it's a little bit different. This is bigger. It's about a little less than a third instead of 27%. We have more rental units in Catawba County than the other three. And that's why that percentage of rental vacancies is larger. The recreational use is about the same percentage, a few more here in the for sale only, and then you have a few less in the other vacant category. So they're trying to figure that out. I don't think they got the complete answer, but at least it tells us a little bit about what are these vacant units and what type of housing are they. Okay?